Dear chosen one, there comes a moment in your journey when the laughter around you feels loud, sharp, and meant to break you. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because you dared to stand with quiet confidence in what God placed within you. They misread your courage as ego, your purpose as pride, your silence as weakness. They thought canceling you, rejecting you, or walking away from you would stop what God began. What they didn't realize is this: every attempt to block you only sharpened your spiritual edge. Every door they tried to close only pushed you closer to the one God prepared. Every word spoken against you is powerless when spoken against a person protected by divine purpose. Weapons formed against you may be crafted, planned, or spoken, but they hold no lasting strength. They fall empty, unable to succeed, because God Himself stands as your covering. Chosen one, if this is stirring something in your spirit, say Amen in the comments. You see, their laughter was never the final sound. It was simply the opening note to a greater testimony rising within you. Chosen one, people often mock what they cannot comprehend. They saw your growth, your strength, your resilience, and instead of celebrating it, they labeled it arrogance. They believed your confidence came from yourself, not realizing it was rooted in a deep trust in God's promise over your life. The truth is, when God speaks purpose into someone, it changes how they walk, how they think, how they respond. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You no longer apologize for being chosen. And that boldness unsettles those who rely on control, comparison, and insecurity. What they didn't realize is that calling you arrogant did not reduce your assignment. It revealed their fear. When they canceled you, they believed they were removing influence. Instead, they removed themselves from the blessing connected to your presence. If this message hits your spirit, type 9hi99 in the comments. You see, when they stepped away, they assumed you would crumble. They expected silence, defeat, and disappearance. They thought you would fade without their approval. But God has a way of turning isolation into preparation. While they laughed, you were being refined. While they mocked, you were being strengthened. While they walked away, God was lifting you. Chosen one, what they didn't understand is that separation is often the stage God uses to reveal His power. The very plans that were meant to stop you have become the soil where your purpose grows stronger. Their attempts to tear you down cannot succeed because any attack formed against someone under God's covering loses its strength before it reaches its target. The truth is, God never allows rejection without preparing elevation. What felt like abandonment was actually positioning. What looked like loss was a shift toward destiny. Like this video if you know what it's like to be misunderstood for your light. They thought canceling you would silence you. Instead, it activated the very calling they feared. Dear chosen one, many judged you without understanding the source of your confidence. They assumed you were full of pride, when in reality, you were simply standing on a promise God placed deep within your spirit. You carried a quiet assurance that didn't depend on applause or validation, and that unsettled them. You see, people are quick to label what challenges their comfort. Your growth exposed their stagnation. Your determination highlighted their hesitation. Your faith revealed their doubt. So instead of facing their own reflection, they pointed at you and called it arrogance. What they didn't realize is that true arrogance boasts in self, while your strength has always come from surrender. Your posture wasn't "look at me," but "God guide me." Your boldness wasn't rooted in ego, but in trust. You refused to shrink to fit the expectations of those who never saw the vision God showed you. Chosen one, type "I walk in purpose" if you understand this truth. Their mislabel did not define you. It exposed their inability to recognize someone who is anchored in divine identity. When they canceled you, they weren't closing your doors. They were closing their access to the blessing connected to your journey. You were never arrogant. You were appointed. Chosen one, what they failed to see is that your presence carried weight in the spiritual realm. Not because of titles, status, or outward appearance, but because God placed something powerful within you. Your growth, your resilience, your refusal to quit made you a target, not of people alone, but of the forces that fear your potential. You see, when you began to rise, it exposed motives. When you chose healing, it disrupted control. When you walked away from environments that drained you, It revealed who was truly for you. Those who laughed weren't amused. They were relieved. They thought removing you meant removing the reminder of what they refused to become. The truth is, your confidence wasn't the issue. Your calling was. When someone carries purpose, their silence speaks loudly. Their progress speaks loudly. Their faith speaks loudly. And those who operate from insecurity feel threatened by anyone who refuses to play small. Chosen one, if this is resonating, type "I rise with God" in the comments. What they didn't realize is that canceling you did not stop your elevation. It only removed distractions. God used their rejection to clear space, to sharpen your focus, and to strengthen your spirit. They thought they weakened you, but they unknowingly pushed you into alignment. You are not a threat because of who you think you are. You are a threat because of who God called you to be. Dear Chosen One, there was a shift the moment they walked away. They believed distancing themselves would leave you stranded, unsupported, and forgotten. They expected your progress to stall, your spirit to weaken, and your confidence to fade. They thought their absence held power over your destiny. What they didn't realize is that God often removes certain voices so you can finally hear His clearly. You see, isolation feels painful at first. It can feel like abandonment, rejection, or failure. But in that quiet space, something sacred began to form within you. Your prayer life deepened. Your vision sharpened. Your strength matured. The same season that others mocked became the season where God rebuilt you. They assumed canceling you would damage your foundation. Instead, it removed instability. It separated you from those who only tolerated you, not celebrated you. It lifted you away from people who benefited from your light but never supported your growth. Chosen One, if you feel this, say Amen in the comments. The turning point wasn't when they left. It was when you realized you never needed them to become who God designed you to be. Their exit did not weaken your path. It cleared it. What they meant as dismissal became the very moment God began positioning you for greater things. You were never abandoned. You were being prepared. Chosen One, while you were being strengthened, those who dismissed you began to feel a shift they couldn't explain. The laughter that once felt bold started to fade. The confidence they displayed in rejecting you slowly turned into discomfort. They thought cutting you off would bring them peace, control, or satisfaction. Instead, it created an emptiness they never anticipated. You see, some people were connected to blessings they didn't recognize. Your presence brought clarity, wisdom, favor, and spiritual covering, even if they refused to acknowledge it. When they canceled you, they also canceled access to what God was doing through you. They didn't just lose a person, they lost a connection to purpose. What they didn't realize is that rejecting someone aligned with God's assignment often leads to regret. Not because you wished harm upon them, but because removing themselves placed them outside of the flow God intended to move through your relationship. Chosen One, type "I carry divine purpose" if you understand this. Their peace became uneasy. Opportunities they expected began to stall. Plans they were confident in grew uncertain. Why? Because they underestimated the spiritual value of the one they pushed away. The consequence wasn't punishment. It was separation from the grace that was meant to uplift them. They thought canceling you was simple. They never expected to feel the void. Dear Chosen One, while they assumed their words and actions would break you, there was a protection surrounding you they could not understand. They believed rejection would leave you exposed, but spiritually, you were covered in a way that no attack could truly land. Plans formed against you may have looked intimidating, but they lacked the strength to succeed. You see, when God places His covering over someone, every attempt to damage their purpose loses force. Weapons may be shaped, spoken, or strategized, but they collapse before reaching their target. Not because you are perfect, but because God is faithful. His protection is not always loud or visible, but it is unbreakable. What they didn't realize is that while they laughed, heaven was shielding you. While they plotted, God was blocking. While they spoke against you, grace was standing in front of you like an impenetrable barrier. Chosen One, if this truth is speaking to your spirit, type "covered by God" in the comments. They thought canceling you would leave you vulnerable. Instead, it revealed how powerfully guarded you truly are. Their efforts bounced back, their intentions collapsed, and their words lost strength. The shield over your life is not made by human hands. It is sustained by the one who called you, and nothing formed against you has the authority to succeed. Dear chosen one, there is a power in quiet that many cannot comprehend. While the world expected noise, reaction, or confrontation from you, you remained still. That stillness was not weakness. It was strategy. It was faith. It was an acknowledgement that God's timing is perfect and that He moves without announcement. You see, those who tried to cancel you measured success by immediate reaction, not realizing that your silence held authority. Every unspoken word, every withheld response, allowed space for divine action to work without interference. While they watched and waited for you to stumble, God was orchestrating unseen victories. What they didn't realize is that silence carries a weight that laughter cannot undo. Calm endurance speaks louder than outrage. Patience outlasts mockery. Faith outshines fear. And in that silence, your true power becomes visible to those who have eyes to see. Chosen one, type, "I stand in faith," if this resonates in your spirit. The world expected you to engage on their terms. Instead, your stillness became a testimony. Your peace became a proclamation. Your waiting became preparation. What they tried to disrupt only revealed the depth of God's wisdom in your life. The silence was never empty. It was filled with purpose, divine protection, and unstoppable momentum. Chosen one, there comes a moment when the truth surfaces, and what was hidden becomes visible. Those who once laughed, mocked, or dismissed you begin to see the reality they could not understand. Their assumptions crumble, their judgments lose power, and the very thing they tried to stop rises before their eyes. You see, truth cannot be silenced. God's plan cannot be postponed. What was meant for your destiny will reach completion, regardless of human interference. The arrogance they accused you of was never yours. It was their inability to recognize divine purpose. And now, the story they misjudged unfolds exactly as God intended. What they didn't realize is that every rejection, every cancellation, every cold shoulder only served to magnify the authenticity of your calling. Their disbelief becomes irrelevant in the face of God's confirmation. The world's opinion holds no weight against a life anchored in divine truth. Chosen one, type, "My destiny unfolds" in the comments. The revelation of truth is silent yet undeniable. The victory comes not by proving others wrong, but by walking fully aligned with God's purpose. What they mocked becomes testimony. What they ignored becomes influence. And what they doubted becomes undeniable evidence of divine orchestration. Your truth is rising. Their misunderstanding is fading. And God's promise remains unshakable. Ear chosen one, after every challenge, every moment of mockery, after the doors they tried to close, there comes a rise that no one anticipated. You stand taller, stronger, wiser, and more aligned with purpose than ever before. The very people who tried to diminish you now witness a force they could not predict. A life lifted by God, unstoppable, unshaken, unshakable. You see, every attempt to stop you only became fuel for elevation. Every cancellation, every slight, every disbelief became the wind beneath your wings. What they thought would hinder you only heightened your perspective and sharpened your focus. Their rejection was never the end. It was the threshold to greater manifestation. What they didn't realize is that divine elevation is never dependent on approval. It is rooted in obedience, faith, and relentless trust in God's timing. Your destiny is not negotiable. Their disbelief is powerless against God's plan. Their laughter is irrelevant to the reality being built in alignment with heaven's authority. Chosen one, if this resonates, type, "I rise with God" in the comments. The rise is silent yet undeniable. It carries the weight of lessons learned, strength gained, and promises fulfilled. And while the world watches in surprise, you continue to move in purpose, guided by the one who called you, shielded by the one who knows your worth, and empowered by the one who ensures every step leads to destiny. Your rise is inevitable. Your victory is visible. Your light cannot be canceled. Dear chosen one, hear this. The laughter, the rejection, the dismissal, and every attempt to cancel you were never stronger than God's hand over your life. What they sought to hinder became the very stage for your elevation. The opposition was never final. It was the signal that God was about to reveal His glory through you. You see, every shadow cast against you only highlighted your light. Every word meant to diminish you only confirmed your divine appointment. Every moment they thought you were defeated, you were being prepared to stand taller, shine brighter, and carry influence further than they ever imagined. The truth is, what felt like isolation was actually divine alignment. What seemed like rejection was the hand of God positioning you for breakthrough. What appeared as loss was actually the beginning of unprecedented favor. You did not merely survive, you transformed. You did not simply endure, you rose. You did not just walk, you soared. Chosen one, type, "I am victorious," in the comments if your spirit knows this truth. Remember this: God's timing is flawless. His protection is perfect. His promises are unshakable. What they tried to cancel, they could not stop. What they underestimated, they cannot deny. What they mocked is now magnified by grace. They didn't see it coming. They never understood. The laughter fades. The disbelief dissolves. The mocking silence becomes awe. The grave they dug for you? It became the garden where your purpose blooms. Rise, chosen one. Stand in the strength of God's promise. Walk in the authority of divine protection. Shine with the power of your calling. The world may not understand, but heaven celebrates. Your story is not just survival, it is triumph. Your path is not just persistence, it is destiny. And what God has begun in you will reach its full and glorious completion.